Hello everyone and welcome to my channel. My name is Crown and today we are going to have some more stories that I hope that you will enjoy. But before we start, it will be so much appreciated if you would subscribe to the channel, like the video if you enjoyed it, and maybe leave a comment down below. These simple clicks would mean a lot to the future of this channel and really reward the effort that I put in every day. And now, without further ado, let's go! First story. Steal my guitar? Say goodbye to everything you own. Background. My friend who I'll call James and I are in a band, and his grandpa on his mom's side of the family allows us to use his house as a practice space. Since hauling things back and forth can be a pain, we tend to leave a lot of our equipment over there. Up until a few months ago, both of his parents were also living at his grandpa's house. A few months back, his parents got into a huge fight because his father is basically a deadbeat, hasn't had a job in a decade, and outright refuses to look for work. At this point, she's basically had enough of him, tells him to get his possessions and move out. He moves out, but he ends up leaving the majority of his stuff in the garage. This is a huge pain because his stuff is stacked to the ceiling in boxes and taking up half of the garage. And she gave him a month's notice to come and get his stuff, but he never did. He ended up moving back in with his dad, James' grandpa on his dad's side. Last week, out of nowhere, James gets a series of angry and borderline threatening texts from his dad wanting to know what James had done with his old drum kit that his dad had left in the garage. He was all paranoid that we might be trying to sell it because a similar drum kit popped up on Craigslist recently that he thought was his. James explains to him that the kit is still out in the garage and that he can come get it at any time. His dad replied that he was going to come get the kit, but he apparently still thought that we were trying to sell it on Craigslist and just hadn't found a buyer. His dad came by to get the kit when me and James weren't around. But when we came back, we discovered that not only had his dad taken the old drum kit, but he had also gone through all of our music equipment and taken several $100s worth of cymbals and snare drums that belonged to James, several of our microphones, and one of my Fender Telecasters. The revenge. Me and James were rightfully pissed off that his father had done this. James called him and demanded to know why he had taken some of our music equipment, and his father told him that it was payback for trying to sell his drum kit on Craigslist and hung up. Me and James considered just calling the cops and being done with it, but I had a better idea. Since his dad hadn't come back for the rest of his stuff after his mom gave him a month's warning, that technically meant that everything that he left in the garage was abandoned property and we could do whatever we wanted with it. So what me and James did was we had ourselves a little one-day-only yard sale of his dad's stuff, everything 5 cents a piece. Or traveled fast around the neighborhood and soon everyone in the area was coming around to do a bit of a shopping. Or traveled fast around the neighborhood and soon everyone in the area was coming around to do a bit of shopping. We sold tools, video games, TVs, clothes, you name it. At the end of the day, we had made about $20 and change. Everything else that was left we donated to Goodwill with the exception of his clothes. We burned those in a fire pit. With virtually everything his dad owned, sold, donated, or burned, the only thing left to do was to go get our stuff back. At around 8 a.m. the morning after, we rolled over to James' other grandpa's house, the one on his dad's side, and knocked on the door. His dad was still sleeping, but James' grandpa opened the door. He invited us in and we gave him the rundown of everything that had happened. James' grandpa was angry. He woke James' dad up and absolutely laid into him verbally. After he was done yelling at him, he forced him to give us all of our music equipment back and to apologize. Right before we left, I handed James' dad a jar full of nickels and told him what we had done with all his stuff. If looks could kill, I'd be dead right now. But he just told me to get lost and went back inside. Next story. Fake friends try to take advantage one too many times. Today I thought I'd share the story of Sam, not the real name. Sam does not make friends easily. He's not good at small talk, and to make things worse, he's suspicious of people who are too friendly for the reasons below. Sam made a lot of money at a young age. I'm not going to say exactly what he did because I don't want him tracked down, but he made something that made him rich. Being a smart guy, Sam invested most of the money in long-term investments that will pay out a reasonable amount each month until he dies. So he doesn't live a rich life, but he never has to work again. A few years after his windfall, he got bored and decided to go back to college. There he met some people who enthusiastically pursued friendship with him. Making friends with them was so easy that for a while, he was happy. He didn't find out until later that they had learned about his wealth by searching for his name online. It started small. Occasionally, one of them would be short of some money and ask Sam for a loan, then blow it off when he asked for it back. Sam started to get concerned, but he didn't want to lose his new friends. Then they all decided to go on a vacation together to a well-known amusement park. They pressured him into paying for the tickets, flights, and hotel rooms. Sam tried to explain that month to month, he wasn't getting enough money to pay for all this stuff, but they swore to him that he would be repaid and ramped up the social pressure on him. He eventually caved and took an advance on his next month's payment to pay for this vacation. Then, as if all of that wasn't bad enough, they ditched him for most of the vacation. Whenever he tried to hang out with them, they told him, "We made some plans to meet these other guys, or we already ate." By the end of this vacation, Sam was forced to face the fact that they weren't really his friends. Sam was angry, and he had an idea while reading the local news. A local restaurant had created a dish that cost $1,000. It was mostly a publicity stunt, copying another restaurant that had gained a lot of publicity by doing the same thing. But Sam understood that his friends saw him as their ticket to the rich life. Sam started making sure that friends saw mentions of this overpriced dish several times a day. Eventually, it worked. They started suggesting to him that they should all go and try this dish. Sam made it clear to them that he was still paying on the vacation, and although he could get together enough cash to buy it for himself, he could not pay for their meals. And they all said they understood, although they looked a little worried. He never overheard them saying it, but he knew they confused being a millionaire with having $1 million sitting in your checking account. The day of the meal came and they all ordered this $1,000 dish. The restaurant's manager came out and asked them if they were certain they had the funds to purchase this meal. Each of them confirmed that they had the money and were ready to pay. Sam can't remember what was in the meal, but he says it tasted salty and slimy, like French fries soaked in water. As the end of the meal grew near, the friends seemed to be more and more nervous. At the end of the meal, everyone handed over their debit cards. Sam's cleared and every other card was declined. They turned to Sam, saying things like, "I don't know why it was declined. Can you help us out?" One of them just slid her bill over to Sam with a smug grin. Sam replied honestly, "I don't have enough money in my checking account to cover your bills." He stood up and started to walk out. One of them called out, "You can't just leave us like this." He replied, "I made some plans to meet up with other guys." Sam left because he didn't want anyone else to try to make him pay for their meals. He only found out afterward that the cops were called by the manager. The friends weren't arrested, but a police report was filed and they had to go to court. They had to pay both a restaurant bill and a large fine. And because they were in legal trouble, the university put them on probation. The best part, however, is that Sam told as many people as possible that they had tried to run out on a bill, which is a crime that they were going to court and on probation for. Sam figured that most people wouldn't want to hear the whole story, and he was embarrassed that he had been taken in. So he simplified it and implied that they had simply tried to sneak out of a restaurant. To their fellow college students, this was enough to turn the friends into pariahs. Next story. A former carnival worker's battle with an Uber Karen. I used to work for a traveling carnival. The ones you might see at a state or county fair or a parking lot near you in 1 week gone the next. For some backgrounds, I was a ride operator, meaning I helped set up, operated, took down the ride, and helped with putting away all the show's electrical wire. There are levels for operating rides. There were what we called green help or new employees, regular ones who have been there a little while. Brake person, as you guessed it, a person who gave brakes, and supervisor who was over the ride operators for kids/family rides, and one for the major rides. And now the main attraction. I was a ride operator for a ride called the Silver Streak, which if you have seen or heard of a ride called the Himalaya, it is exactly that but smaller, as in one trailer for the ride component compared to 2 or more. And all the rides have height requirements. This is important for the story. I was running the Silver Streak and letting people in and checking for tickets or wristbands, and all of a sudden I hear the exit gate open the slam shut. I noticed who it was and I had to excuse myself from the entry gate to deal with the wrong way people. I asked the lady, I'm using the term very loosely, if she and her party could exit the ride and come in the correct way. This is when the Uber Karen strikes. She told me that the line was too long for her and her family. Happy and 4 kids, I'm guessing under the age of 7. I told her that I will not allow anyone to skip the line of people at the entrance. She says, I don't care about them. Me and my children will ride this ride. And then snappishly turns her head. I looked at Happy and got no reaction. So I went to the entrance and told the people in that line that there was a delay due to a party who came the wrong way and refused to leave. They all thankfully understood. I tried to get in touch with my supervisor and manager but could not. So I just happened to see about 3 police officers come by and asked them to come over, in which they did. I told them the problem and told them where the Karen and her party were seated. Cops went to talk to Karen and her hubby. One to Karen and one to the hubby. They told me that Karen is on the fair board and she knows a state senator and she would have my job as well as the officer job. Typical Karen jargon. I told the officer that if she doesn't follow my instructions for her and her party to leave and come in the correct way, I want her and her party taken out the ride. The Karen decides that she and her family are going to sit there and not move. So I was able to get in touch with my unit manager and told him that I have a code Karen. Yes, we had a code for Karens. He came and asked them to leave after I told him the situation. I then told the people in line that I was sorry for the delay, and they said, you don't need to be sorry, you're just doing your job. So the Karen gets more irate when my unit manager tells her that she needs to follow the ride operator's directions and leave and come back the right way. She of course refuses to do so, saying stuff like, I'm not going to follow some backcountry helly-belly piece of trash directions. My unit manager told her that the operator just happens to be from Dallas, Texas, where I was born and raised, and grew up in the city. But that did not stop her. She actually told the cops to arrest me and my manager for child endangerment for the rides being unsafe. We inspect the rides every day and have state inspectors come in every 2 weeks. My manager finally had enough. He told the Karen that she and her party had 5 seconds to get out of the ride and heading towards the exit or they will be forcefully removed by the police. I might add there were now 8 cops there. 2 plus 2 state troopers. 5 seconds are up and you can guess what the Karen does. She doesn't budge a micrometer. So my manager asked the cops, all 10 of them, to kindly and forcefully remove the lady and her party from the carnival. The whole carnival. Not just my ride but the whole darn thing. The Karen was of course kicking and screaming how we were awful humans refusing to let kids ride the rides, but no one listened as my ride suddenly became the main attraction at the carnival. Apparently she has done this before as another ride operator on a major ride. A ride with strict height requirement for the riders started playing Hit the Road Jack. in which everyone joined in. She and her party were escorted to their car, but the Karen made a couple of fateful mistakes. She went and kicked 3 cops, hit the 2 state troopers, and decided to spit at another officer. All this I heard from my manager as I went back to operating the ride once the Karen and her family, were off the ride. I asked my manager if it was okay if I could run the next 2 rides longer than normal and not to charge them tickets, which were 4 tickets per person to ride. He said yes to both. The riders had a great time once Karen was gone in for the free rides and a great laugh at Karen's expense. A few weeks later, me and my manager had to go to court since Karen decided to sue me and my manager for emotional distress. Not only did I, my manager, and every single peace officer showed up, 8 city cops and 2 state troopers also testified. I testified on what happened on a ride and the other 9 on what happened after she left my ride. She was found guilty of assault on a peace officer times 10, attempted assault on a peace officer times 10, assault with intent to harm and resisting arrest, and criminal trespassing as the carnival was on state property times 10. Sadly, I don't remember exactly how many years she got in prison, but all I know is that she was staying there for a long time with no chance of parole and was assigned to the wonderful Gatesville Women's State Prison of the Texas Department of Criminal Justice System. She appealed but lost all the way to the Texas Supreme Court, in which she lost hands down 5-0. Needless to say, good riddance. Just remember folks, do not mess with Texas or its law enforcement, or you will seriously pay. And now we have reached the end of today's stories. Thank you for watching and see you next time.